The day my brother Gabriel left, I watched from my bedroom window as he threw his duffel bag into his beaten-up Corolla. Dad stood in the driveway, face red with anger, pointing his finger and shouting words I couldn't quite hear through the glass. Mom just stood there, arms crossed, silent as always when Dad went on his rampages. I'm Kayla, and that was 10 years ago. I was 18 then, watching my 22-year-old brother drive away from our picture-perfect suburban home, never to return. At least, that's what Dad promised would happen. He's dead to us now, Dad had declared at dinner that night, stabbing his fork into his steak with enough force to make the plates rattle. Anyone who defies this family's values doesn't deserve to be part of it. I'd pushed my food around my plate, too afraid to speak up. Too afraid to tell Dad that Gabriel had only wanted to study art, instead of following the family tradition of becoming a lawyer. Too afraid to mention that Gabriel had begged me to come with him. "Pass the salt, dear," Mom had said, as if we hadn't just watched her firstborn child leave forever. That was the moment I learned what real power looked like. Not in Dad's thunderous voice or rigid rules, but in Mom's quiet compliance that made it all possible. "Kayla, you're spacing out again." Evangeline's voice pulls me back to the present. We're sitting in her cozy apartment, where I've been crashing more often lately. "Your coffee's getting cold." "Sorry, just thinking about Gabriel again." I wrap my hands around the mug, seeking its warmth. "You've been doing that a lot lately," she observes, tucking her legs under her on the couch. "Any particular reason?" Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. I almost ignore it, but something makes me pick up. "Is this Kayla McCoy?" a professional-sounding woman asks. "Yes, speaking." "I'm calling on behalf of Gabriel McCoy. He'd like to arrange a meeting with you." The mug slips from my hand, coffee splashing across Evangeline's pristine white carpet. "I'm so sorry!" I scramble for napkins while trying to keep the phone pressed to my ear. "Gabriel?" My voice cracks. "My brother Gabriel?" "Yes. He's in town and would like to meet tomorrow at the Grand Hotel, 2 p.m. He says to tell you he still has the drawing you made him the day he left." My hands freeze mid-cleanup. That drawing, a childish sketch of two stick figures holding hands, with "Don't forget me" scrawled in wobbly letters. I'd slipped it into his jacket pocket while he was packing. "I'll be there," I managed to say before hanging up. "Kayla?" Evangeline's looking at me with concern. "What's going on?" "He's back." I sink onto the coffee-stained carpet. "Gabriel's back, and he's staying at the Grand Hotel. Do you know how much those rooms cost?" "Holy shit," Evangeline whispers. "What are you going to do about your parents?" "Nothing yet." I pull out my phone again, Googling Gabriel's name. My jaw drops. Oh my God! The screen shows article after article about Gabriel McCoy, tech entrepreneur and billionaire philanthropist. Photos of my brother in expensive suits, giving keynote speeches, shaking hands with Silicon Valley giants. "Eve, look at this!" I thrust the phone at her. All this time, while Dad was telling everyone his son was probably living in a gutter somewhere. "Your brother's been building an empire," she finishes, scrolling through the articles. "But why now? Why come back after 10 years? My phone buzzes again. A text this time, from the same unknown number. "Bring the drawing if you still have it." Gee, I do still have it. It's in a box under my bed, along with every birthday card he ever sent me that Dad didn't manage to intercept and destroy. 10 years of cards arriving like clockwork, each one returned to sender by our parents, each one salvaged from the trash by me. "I need to go home and get something," I tell Evangeline, standing up. "And then, I need to borrow that black dress you wore to your sister's wedding." "The revenge dress?" She raises an eyebrow, already heading to her closet. "Girl, you're going to need heels too, and we're doing something about that hair." As I watch her pull out various items, my phone buzzes one final time. Another text. "Time to show them what the black sheep of the family can do. You in?" For the first time in 10 years, I feel something other than fear when thinking about standing up to my parents. I feel powerful. "Ha, I'm in," I text back, and hit send before I can change my mind. The grand hotel lobby gleams with old money and new expectations. I smooth down Evangeline's black dress, feeling like an imposter despite the confidence boost from the designer label. A tall man in a suit approaches, and for a moment, I don't recognize him. "Still wearing your hair in that messy bun, little sister?" Gabriel's voice is exactly the same, even if everything else isn't. "Still making dramatic entrances, big brother?" I counter, but my voice trembles. He pulls me into a hug, and suddenly I'm 18 again, watching him drive away. I grip the back of his suit jacket, probably wrinkling the expensive fabric. "Come on," he says, pulling back to look at me. "We've got a lot to talk about." The private dining room he leads me to could fit my entire apartment. A man in a crisp suit stands as we enter. "Kayla, this is Avery, my business partner and friend." Gabriel gestures. "Avery, my sister finally graces us with her presence." "The famous Kayla," Avery says warmly, shaking my hand. "Gabriel talks about you constantly." "Funny," I say, settling into my chair. "Our parents never mention him at all." Gabriel's smile tightens. "Speaking of our loving family, how are the tyrants? Still terrorizing the neighborhood with their perfect lawn and judgmental stares." I pull the drawing from my purse. "I brought what you asked for." His hands shake slightly as he takes it. "You actually kept it." "I kept everything. Every card, every note." I lean forward. "Why didn't you tell me you were successful? All those returned birthday cards. You could have found another way to contact me." "I needed to be sure," he says, carefully refolding the drawing. "Sure that you were ready, that you wouldn't run straight to Dad with the information." "I would never." "Wouldn't you?" His eyes lock with mine. "You're still living at home, Kayla, still playing the perfect daughter." "Because I had nowhere else to go." The words burst out louder than intended. "Some of us didn't have the courage to just drive away." Avery clears his throat. "Perhaps I should give you two a moment." "No," Gabriel and I say simultaneously. "Avery needs to be here for this," Gabriel continues, pulling out his phone. He slides it across the table, showing me a website. "Because this involves him too." I look at the screen. It's a charity organization. Breaking Chains Foundation, empowering young adults to escape family control. "What is this?" "This," Gabriel says, "is our revenge. And our redemption. A foundation that helps young adults trapped in controlling family situations. Legal aid, housing assistance, education funding. Everything I wished I had when I left." "And everything you wished you could give Kayla," Avery adds quietly. I stare at them both. "You've been planning this?" "For years," Gabriel confirms. "The foundation launches next month. But first, I'm giving our parents a chance to apologize. To you, not me." "To me?" I laugh incredulously. "For what?" "For making you their puppet after I left. For forcing you to be their perfect daughter, because they couldn't control their son." He leans forward. "If they apologize, acknowledge what they did to both of us, I'll keep the foundation's launch quiet. If not, you'll make it very public," I finish, understanding dawning. Local boy made good, creating a charity inspired by his own family's abuse. "It would destroy their reputation," Avery notes. "Everything they've built in the community." "Just like they tried to destroy me," Gabriel adds. "But I'm not doing this without your blessing, Kayla. You're still there, still dealing with them. It has to be your choice." I think about last night's dinner, about Dad's lecture on family loyalty, and Mom's silent nods, about the college acceptance letters I burned because they weren't for law school. "What do you need me to do?" Gabriel's smile turns sharp. "Just drop a few hints. Let them know I'm back, that I'm successful. Make them curious enough to agree to a meeting." "They'll never apologize," I say. "You know Dad's pride." "Then they'll face the consequences." He pulls out a business card, slides it across the table. "Think about it. Call me when you're ready." I stand up, clutching the card. "I don't need to think about it. I'm ready now." "Kayla, no, listen." I press my hands flat against the table. For 10 years, I've watched them destroy every dream I had that didn't fit their plan. I've smiled and nodded and played my part, but I'm done. Gabriel exchanges a look with Avery, then turns back to me. You understand there's no going back from this? I think about the drawing, about the scared 18-year-old girl who drew it, about the woman I could have been without their control. Good, I say, and pull out my phone. Because I'm calling Mom right now to tell her all about running into her successful son at the Grand Hotel. The smile Gabriel gives me is worth every second of the last 10 years. You saw who? Mom's teacup clatters against its saucer, spilling Earl Grey onto her pristine tablecloth. Gabriel, I repeat, watching her face carefully. At the Grand Hotel, he looked successful. Dad's newspaper lowers slowly, his reading glasses perched on the edge of his nose. Successful? That boy couldn't manage his own lunch money. Actually, I scroll through my phone, pretending to read. According to Forbes, he's worth about $3 billion now. Something about tech startups and innovative software solutions. The newspaper crumples in Dad's grip. Impossible. I have the article right here. I hold up my phone, showing them Gabriel's profile picture. Him standing in front of his company headquarters. Confident smile in place. He asked about you both. Mom dabs at the tea stain with trembling hands. Did he seem well? Lorelei, Dad warns, but she continues. Is he eating properly? He always forgot to eat when he was stressed. He has a personal chef now, I say, watching Dad's face turn an interesting shade of purple. And a business partner named Avery. They're working on some big project together. Enough! Dad slams his hand on the table. We don't discuss that name in this house. You know the rules, Kayla. Rules! I stand up, my chair scraping against the floor. Like the rule that said I couldn't accept my art school scholarship? Or the one that said I had to study law instead of journalism? We gave you guidance, he says through clenched teeth. Structure! Look how well you've turned out. I laugh, and the sound surprises even me. Well, I'm 28, living at home, working as a paralegal in your firm, because you wouldn't let me take the bar exam until I proved myself. Meanwhile, Gabriel abandoned this family, Dad roars, standing up. He threw away everything we built for him. Arthur, the neighbors will hear, Mom whispers. Let them, I shout back. Let them hear how the great Arthur threw out his son for wanting to be an artist. How'd that work out, Dad? Because from where I'm standing, the son you disowned is worth more than you'll make in 10 lifetimes. Get out? Dad's voice turns deadly quiet. Get out of my house. It's not your house, I say, pulling out my final weapon. I checked the deed. It's in Mom's name, just like the car you drive and the firm you run. Grandma made sure of that before she died, didn't she? Because she knew what you were like. Mom gasps. Dad turns to her, betrayal written across his face. You told her? I didn't, Mom whispers. I never told anyone. I found the papers, I say, heart pounding. The same day I found all those birthday cards from Gabriel in your desk. The ones you said were returned to sender? Funny how they all made it here just fine. You went through my private papers? Dad takes a step toward me. I learned from the best. I stand my ground. You went through Gabriel's room every week, remember? Checking for contraband art supplies? That was different. Was it? Or were you just scared? The words tumble out now, years of silence breaking. Scared that he'd succeed without you? Scared that he'd prove you wrong about everything? Kayla, please. Mom stands up, reaching for me. Your father only wants what's best. No, I cut her off. He wants what's best for him, his reputation, his legacy. Well, guess what? Gabriel's built his own legacy now, and he wants to meet with you both. Dad scoffs. After 10 years, what could he possibly want? To give you a chance, I say quietly. One chance to make things right, to apologize. Apologize? Dad laughs harshly. For what? For providing everything? For trying to give him a future? Not to him. I pull out Gabriel's business card, place it on the table. To me. The silence that follows is deafening. Mom picks up the card with shaking fingers, while Dad stares at me like he's never seen me before. You have 24 hours to decide, I say, picking up my purse. Gabriel's number is on the card. If you don't call him, I let the threat hang in the air. Are you blackmailing us? Dad's voice is incredulous. No. I head for the door, then turn back one last time. I'm giving you exactly what you always gave us, an ultimatum. Choose wisely this time. As I walk out, I hear Mom start to cry. Dad calls my name, but I don't stop. In my pocket, my phone buzzes with a text from Gabriel. How'd it go? I smile as I type back. Exactly according to plan. Ball's in their court now. 10 years ago, I watched Gabriel drive away from this house. Today, I'm walking away on my own terms, and this time, I'm not the one who's afraid. They haven't called, Gabriel says, pacing the hotel suite. 24 hours have passed. I'm curled up on the plush sofa, watching him wear a path in the expensive carpet. Did you really expect them to? No, he admits, running a hand through his hair. But I hoped, for your sake. Avery enters with his laptop open. The venue's confirmed for next week. Press releases are ready to go. We just need your final approval on the guest list. Show me! I stand up, moving to look over his shoulder. The list is impressive. Local media, social activists, even a few state politicians. You're really going all out. The Breaking Chains Foundation launch needs to make waves, Avery explains. Maximum impact means maximum exposure for our cause. And maximum embarrassment for our parents, Gabriel adds grimly. My phone buzzes. A text from Evangeline. Your mom just came by the coffee shop asking about you. She seemed worried. Let her worry, I mutter, typing back a quick response. Speaking of worry, Avery turns the laptop toward me. We need to discuss your speech. My what? Gabriel stops pacing. We want you to speak at the launch. Tell your story. You're not just my sister, Kayla. You're exactly the kind of person this foundation is meant to help. I can't. I shake my head. Public speaking isn't my thing. Besides, Dad will what? Gabriel challenges. Ground you? Fire you? You don't work for him anymore, remember? He's right. I'd quit the firm this morning via email, copying every partner. Dad's response had been predictably explosive, but for the first time, his anger couldn't touch me. Fine, I say, but I need help writing it. Already covered. Avery pulls out a folder. I've drafted an outline. We'll work on it together. The suite's phone rings, making us all jump. Gabriel answers, listens, then looks at me. Mom's in the lobby. My heart stops. Alone? He nods. Should I send her up? I think about all the times she stood by silently, watching Dad crush our dreams. But I also remember the birthday cards she kept, even if she never gave them to me. Yes, I decide. But I want to talk to her alone. 5 minutes later, Mom steps into the suite, looking smaller than I remember in her designer suit. Kayla, she starts, then stops, taking in my appearance. I'm wearing one of the new outfits Gabriel bought me. Professional, expensive, nothing like the conservative clothes she always chose. You look different. Amazing what happens when you dress for yourself instead of Dad's approval. She flinches. Your father doesn't know I'm here. Of course not. I gesture to the sofa. Why are you here, Mom? She sits, hands clasped tightly in her lap. I found something after you left yesterday. She pulls out an envelope, aged and creased. It's from the day Gabriel left. Inside is a letter in my teenage handwriting. Dear Mom, I'm going with Gabriel. I can't be who Dad wants me to be anymore. Please understand. Love, Kayla. I never sent this, I whisper. No, she agrees. You wrote it, but you stayed. For me, I think. Because you knew I couldn't handle losing both of you. Tears burn my eyes. You lost us anyway. You just did it slowly instead of all at once. I know. She wipes her own eyes. Your father, he means well, but his love comes with conditions. I accepted that for myself, but I should never have accepted it for my children. Then help us change it, I say, pulling out the foundation brochure. This is what Gabriel's building, a way to help other kids like us. She reads it slowly, her hands shaking. Your father will never agree to this. I'm not asking Dad. I'm asking you. For once in your life, Mom, make a choice that isn't about him. She stares at the brochure for a long moment. The house isn't just in my name, she says finally. The firm's building too. Most of our assets are. Mom? She looks up, and for the first time, I see steel in her eyes. If I support this publicly, your father will never forgive me. Good, I say firmly. Maybe it's time he learned what that feels like. She stands, straightening her jacket. I'll need time to move some things around, financial things, and I'll need a good lawyer. I know several, I smile. Independent ones, not connected to Dad's firm. Text me the details for the launch, she says, heading for the door. I'll be there. And Kayla. She turns back. I'm sorry for everything. After she leaves, Gabriel and Avery come back in. Well? Gabriel asks. I hold up Mom's RSVP card for the launch. We just got our first official response. Avery grins. Think Dad will come too? Oh, he'll come, I say, remembering Mom's determined expression. He just doesn't know it yet. The door to Gabriel's suite bursts open, making me spill my coffee. Dad storms in, waving a newspaper. What is the meaning of this? He slams the paper down on the table. The headline reads, Tech Billionaire's New Foundation Tackles Family Control and Abuse. Good morning to you too, Dad, Gabriel says calmly, not looking up from his laptop. I see you got the advance press release. This is slander, Dad sputters. I'll sue you for every penny. No, you won't, Mom says, stepping in behind him. I hadn't even known she was there. Because everything in that article is true. Dad whirls around. You knew about this? I helped write it, she says quietly. Sit down, Arthur. We need to talk. Talk. He laughs harshly. About how our children are trying to destroy us? About how you destroyed us first, I stand up, moving to stand beside Gabriel. About how you turned what should have been a family into a dictatorship. I gave you everything. You gave us conditions, Gabriel counters. Rules, expectations that had nothing to do with what we wanted or needed. And now you're going to pay us back by airing our dirty laundry in public? Dad's face is red with rage. No, I say, pulling out a document. We're giving you one last chance to make it right. Sign this. He snatches the paper, reading quickly. A public apology? An admission of emotional manipulation? You must be joking. Does it look like we're joking? Gabriel stands. Sign it, and we keep the foundation's launch private. Refuse, and tomorrow morning, every major news outlet gets an exclusive interview about how the prestigious Arthur drove his son away and emotionally abused his daughter. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Gabriel's voice is ice cold. I have nothing to lose. My reputation will only improve when people learn what I overcame. But you, your precious law firm, your standing in the community? The firm, Dad scoffs. I built that firm from nothing. The firm that's in my name, Mom interrupts, along with everything else. Sign the apology, Arthur, or I'll give my own interview about why my mother made sure you couldn't control the family assets. Dad stares at her like she's grown a second head. Lorelei? I've already moved half our accounts, she continues, her voice stronger. I've spoken to a divorce lawyer. Your choice now is simple. Sign and save what's left of your reputation, or don't, and lose everything. The silence that follows is deafening. Dad looks from face to face, perhaps finally realizing he's lost control of his perfect family. You're bluffing, he says finally, but his voice wavers. Avery chooses that moment to walk in, carrying a tablet. The media responses are rolling in. Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. McCoy. I have CNN, Fox News, and 3 major newspapers requesting interviews. Should I schedule them? Dad's hands shake as he looks at the document again. This is blackmail. This is karma, I correct him. Everything you taught us about power and control? We learned well. Sign it, Arthur, Mom says softly. For once in your life, admit you were wrong. He picks up the pen, then throws it down. No, I won't be manipulated by my own children. Fine. Gabriel picks up his phone. Avery, release the full press package, including the interviews with Kayla's old art teachers about how Dad threatened to cut their funding if they encouraged her talent. Wait, Dad holds up his hand. You interviewed my colleagues? And your former partners, I add. The ones who left because they couldn't stand your controlling behavior. They were very chatty. You can't. We can, Gabriel interrupts. We will, unless you sign. Now. Dad's hand shakes as he picks up the pen again. He looks at Mom, perhaps hoping for a rescue, but she just watches silently. This will ruin everything I've built, he says quietly. No, Dad, I reply. It will just show everyone what you really built, a prison instead of a family. He signs. The scratch of pen on paper sounds like chains breaking. The foundation launch is next week, Gabriel says, taking the signed document. You'll both be there, smiling for the cameras, supporting your children's philanthropic efforts. After that, you can do whatever you want. But if you ever try to control either of us again, you'll destroy me, Dad finishes bitterly. Message received. He walks out without another word. Mom lingers, looking at us both. I'm proud of you, she says softly. Both of you. I should have said that years ago. After she leaves, I collapse onto the sofa. That was intense? Gabriel suggests. Terrifying, I correct. But also liberating, Avery finishes, sitting beside me. You both did well. It's not over, I say, thinking about the foundation launch ahead. This is just the beginning. Gabriel smiles. And for the first time, I see the brother I remember from childhood. Good, because we have so much more to do. The ballroom of the Grand Hotel buzzes with anticipation. Camera flashes pop like lightning as Gabriel takes the stage, looking every bit the successful businessman in his tailored suit. You ready? Evangeline squeezes my hand backstage. She's been helping me practice my speech for days. No, I admit, peeking through the curtain. Mom and Dad sit in the front row, picture-perfect smiles plastered on their faces. Dad's jaw twitches every time a camera points his way. Ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel's voice fills the room. 10 years ago, I left home with nothing but a duffel bag and a dream. Today, I stand before you to announce the Breaking Chains Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping young adults escape controlling family situations. More camera flashes. I watch Dad's knuckles turn white on his armrest. But this foundation isn't just my story, Gabriel continues. It's the story of countless others, including someone very special to me. Please welcome my sister, Kayla. The spotlight feels like an interrogation lamp as I walk onto the stage. My new dress, picked by Evangeline, catches the light, making me feel stronger somehow. When my brother left, I begin, my voice shaking slightly. I thought I'd lost my protector, my ally. Instead, I lost my voice. For 10 years, I lived someone else's dream, followed someone else's rules, became someone else's version of perfect. I look directly at Dad now. His face is a mask, but I can see the storm brewing behind his eyes. The Breaking Chains Foundation isn't just about helping people escape. It's about helping them find themselves again. About teaching them that love shouldn't come with conditions, that family shouldn't mean control, and that dreams don't have to match someone else's expectations. Mom dabs at her eyes with a tissue. Dad doesn't move. Today, I'm reclaiming my voice, I continue, pulling out a folded paper from my pocket. This is my acceptance letter to art school from 10 years ago. I never went because I was told good daughters don't waste their potential on frivolous dreams. Well, I'm enrolling again this fall, because good daughters also know when to stop listening to bad advice. The audience breaks into applause. I see several people wiping tears, including some of Dad's former colleagues. The foundation will provide scholarships, legal aid, and housing assistance, I explain. But most importantly, it will provide hope. Hope that there's life beyond control, beyond manipulation, beyond the cage of someone else's expectations. As I finish speaking, Gabriel joins me at the podium. And to kick off our first fundraising campaign, I'm matching all donations made today, dollar for dollar. The crowd erupts in cheers. Camera flashes intensify. I see Dad stand abruptly, heading for the exit, but Mom stays put, applauding with everyone else. Backstage after the speeches, Dad corners me in the hallway. "Happy now?" he hisses. "You've humiliated me in front of everyone who matters." "No, Dad." I step closer, refusing to back down. "You humiliated yourself by being the kind of father people need protection from." "How dare you? Everything okay here?" Avery appears beside me, along with 2 security guards. "Just fine," I say, not breaking eye contact with Dad. "My father was just leaving." "This isn't over," Dad warns. "Actually, it is." Mom's voice cuts through the tension. She walks up, standing between me and Dad. "The board of directors called an emergency meeting this morning. They've voted to remove you as managing partner of the firm." Dad's face goes pale. "They can't." "They can, and they did. Apparently, being associated with someone who inspires anti-abuse foundations isn't good for business." Mom's voice is steady. "I signed the papers an hour ago." "You signed? You're on the board?" "I've always been on the board, Arthur. I just never voted against you before. Consider this my first independent decision in 30 years of marriage." Dad looks like he's been slapped. Without another word, he turns and walks away. "Mom?" I whisper. She pulls me into a hug. "I meant what I said about being proud of you. Both of you," she adds as Gabriel approaches. "The reporters want more photos," he says. "Family shots if you're up for it." Mom straightens her shoulders. "I am, but first." She pulls out an envelope. "My personal donation to the foundation. I think you'll find it adequate." Gabriel opens it, his eyes widening. "Mom, this is half of everything," she says simply. "It's time it went to something worthwhile." As we walk back toward the cameras, I feel lighter than I have in years. The spotlight doesn't feel like an interrogation anymore. It feels like freedom. "Ready for those photos?" Avery asks, grinning. I look at my mom, my brother, and the army of supporters around us. Ready for everything. The morning after the launch, I wake up to 37 missed calls and 1 text from Dad. "You've made your point, let's talk." "Delete it," Gabriel says, watching me stare at my phone over breakfast in his suite. He's trying to regain control. "I know, but..." A knock at the door interrupts us. Avery enters, looking concerned. "You both need to see this." He turns on the TV. Dad's face fills the screen, standing at a podium outside his firm. Former firm now. "My children have painted me as a monster," he's saying, his voice breaking perfectly on cue. "But everything I did was out of love. I only wanted to protect them from making mistakes." "Turn it off," I snap, but Avery holds up his hand. "Watch." "And yes, perhaps I was too strict," Dad continues, "too focused on success. But to have my own wife conspire with them, to steal my firm, my legacy..." "Oh, he didn't," Gabriel growls. "I'm announcing today that I'm filing a lawsuit against the Breaking Chains Foundation for defamation and against my wife for fraudulent manipulation of company assets." The room goes silent. My phone buzzes. Mom calling. "Get her over here," Gabriel tells me. "Now." 20 minutes later, Mom arrives, looking shaken. "He's frozen all our joint accounts, changed the locks on the house. His lawyer just served me with papers." "Let me see." Avery takes the documents, reading quickly. "This is desperate. He's claiming temporary insanity when he signed the apology, saying you all coerced him." "Can he do that?" I ask. "He can try." Gabriel's voice is deadly calm. "But he forgot something important." "What's that?" "I record everything." He pulls out his phone, plays a video. It shows Dad in the suite, perfectly lucid, reading and signing the apology. Standard business practice. Never trust anyone completely. That's not all. Mom pulls out her own phone. I've been recording his threats for years. Just in case. Her voice breaks. I never thought I'd need them. Mom. I move to hug her, but she steps back. No, let me finish. There's something you both need to know. She takes a deep breath. The reason your grandmother put everything in my name wasn't just because she didn't trust your father. It was because she saw what happened to her own sister in an abusive marriage. What are you saying? Gabriel asks quietly. Your father, the control, the manipulation, it wasn't new. He learned it from his father. I saw the signs early, but I thought I could protect you both by staying, by managing him. Instead, I became part of the problem. Tears streamed down her face now. When Gabriel left, I thought if I just played along, kept the peace, I could keep Kayla safe. But I was wrong. I made you both carry burdens you never should have had to carry. Mom, stop! I try again to reach for her. No, you need to hear this. Yesterday wasn't just about the foundation. I've been meeting with lawyers for months, gathering evidence, preparing for this moment. Your father's lawsuit? I expected it, planned for it. What do you mean? Avery asks. She pulls out another folder. These are records of every questionable decision he's made at the firm. Every client he pressured, every associate he bullied, every ethical line he crossed. I've kept copies of everything for 20 years. Gabriel whistles low. You've been building a case against him all this time? I've been building an escape route, she corrects. For all of us. I just needed the courage to use it. My phone buzzes again. Dad calling. Answer it, Mom says suddenly. Put it on speaker. I do. Dad's voice fills the room. Kayla, this has gone far enough. Tell your brother to call off his dogs and we can… No, I interrupt. You're done giving orders. Listen here. No, you listen, Mom cuts in. Remember that ethics investigation you barely avoided 5 years ago? I have the real documents. Remember Judge Harrison's daughter? I have those photos too. Silence. You taught our children that power means control, Mom continues. But you forgot to teach them where real power comes from. It comes from truth, Arthur. And I have 20 years of your truth ready to share. You wouldn't dare. Try me, drop the lawsuit, sign the divorce papers, walk away with your reputation somewhat intact, or I'll show everyone exactly who you are. The line goes dead. Mom, Gabriel says slowly, you're kind of terrifying. She laughs, and for the first time, it sounds real. I learned from the best. I just used the lessons differently. What now? I ask. Now? She straightens her shoulders. Now we finish what we started. Together. Avery's already typing on his laptop. I'll have the legal team ready for whatever he tries next. He won't try anything, Mom says confidently. He's a bully, and bullies back down when someone stands up to them. We just had to stand up together. Looking at her now, I finally see what real strength looks like. It's not in Dad's loud demands or rigid rules. It's in Mom's quiet resistance, in Gabriel's determined success, in my rediscovered voice. The autumn breeze carries the scent of oil paint through my studio window. My brush moves across the canvas, adding final touches to the portrait. A family, but not the kind I grew up with. In this painting, the faces are warm, the poses natural, the love unconditional. Still working? Gabriel appears in the doorway, carrying coffee. Almost done. I step back, studying the piece. What do you think? I think it's perfect for the foundation's new office lobby. He hands me a cup. The board's going to love it. The foundation has grown faster than any of us expected. Every week brings new stories, new faces, new chances to help. My art therapy program is already changing lives. Turns out those frivolous dreams Dad feared so much have real power. Speaking of the board, I wipe my hands on my paint-stained apron. Did you see Mom's proposal? For the parent rehabilitation program? Yeah, he grins. Pretty bold move, using her experience to help other parents break toxic patterns. A knock at the studio door makes us turn. Evangeline stands there with Avery, both grinning suspiciously. What did you two do? I ask. Check your email, Evangeline says. I pull out my phone, open the new message. It's from Dad's former firm. They want to partner with the foundation. I look up, shocked. Provide pro bono legal services to our clients? Keep reading, Avery urges. And we wish to formally announce the retirement of Arthur, effective immediately. My voice trails off. He's really gone? Apparently, Mom's evidence was pretty convincing, Gabriel says. The partners suggested he step down quietly or face a very public ethics investigation. Another knock. Mom enters, looking younger somehow, freer. I just heard, she says. Arthur signed the divorce papers this morning. No contests, no conditions. Just like that? I can hardly believe it. Just like that. She moves to study my painting. Though I suspect having his entire legal history hanging over his head helped change his mind. Mom, Gabriel says carefully, are you okay? She touches the canvas gently, tracing the painted figures. I'm better than okay. For the first time in 30 years, I'm free. We all are. But what will you do now? I ask. Well, she straightens up, smoothing her jacket. The Foundation's parent program needs a director. Someone who understands both sides of the story. If you'll have me? Are you kidding? I hug her, getting paint on her expensive blouse. Sorry, she laughs. A real laugh, not the polite one she used to use. It's just clothes, sweetheart. Some things matter more. Like family? Gabriel suggests. Like real family, she corrects. The kind we choose to be, not the kind we're forced to be. Avery clears his throat. Speaking of choices, there's one more surprise. He hands me an envelope. Inside is a letter from the city's most prestigious art gallery. They want to feature my work, not just the foundation piece, but a whole series about family, power, and breaking free. How did you... I start. I might have shown them your portfolio, Evangeline admits. The one you've been hiding in your apartment. The one Dad said would never be good enough, I whisper. The one that proves him wrong, Gabriel corrects. My phone buzzes. A text from Dad. I hope you're happy with what you've done. Before I can respond, Mom takes my phone, types quickly, and hands it back. Her response reads, We are. Goodbye, Arthur. She blocks his number before giving my phone back. That felt good, she says, and we all laugh. Looking around my studio, at my brother who came back for me, my mother who found her strength, my friends who became family, and my art that finally has a voice, I realize something important. You know what? I pick up my brush again, adding one final stroke to the painting. I am happy with what we've done. All of it. Even the hard parts? Gabriel asks. Especially the hard parts. I step back, studying the finished piece. Because they led us here. The painting shows a group of people, not posed stiffly like our old family portraits, but caught in genuine moments of connection. In the background, broken chains lie discarded, while new bonds, formed by choice rather than obligation, link the figures together. It's perfect, Mom says softly. And it is. Not because it's flawless, but because it's real. Like us. Like the family we've become. So, Evangeline claps her hands, who's ready to celebrate? Actually, I look at my paint-covered clothes. I need to clean up first. No, Gabriel says, throwing an arm around my shoulders. You're perfect just as you are. And for the first time in my life, I believe it.
It's your fault that we lost our child. I was desperately searching for my 4-year-old daughter who had gone missing in a highway rest stop. Take your eyes off it, it's your fault, look for it alone. Suddenly, my husband cursed me, glared at me with horrified eyes, got into the car, and drove away. Oh my God, what if I can't find my daughter as it is? It's already been a few hours since my daughter disappeared. I was almost overwhelmed with anxiety, but I shook my heart and shouted my daughter's name again. My name is Blair, and I'm 37 years old. I live with my husband, Aaron, and our daughter, Tara. At the beginning of our marriage, my husband was kind, but when my daughter was 3 years old, his attitude toward his family gradually became colder. He started to forget about my daughter's birthday and yearly event without any problems, and if I condemned him even a little, he would yell at me. I felt that I was in danger because he threw things everywhere, and gradually I couldn't say anything to my husband. One day, my husband, who had just come home from work, suddenly said, "Let's go on a family trip tomorrow." Traveling? Yay! Wow, that's so sudden. If my old husband had invited me, I would have been overjoyed. But lately, he has been busy with work, he came home late at night, and he has been in a bad mood even though he's rarely at home on holidays, so I wondered what kind of thoughts he has. You don't want to. You're at home and not working, so you don't have any plans, do you? Well, that's right. I was angry with Aaron, who usually has a habit of looking down on full-time housewives. I feel like, you don't have to say it like that. However, when I saw my daughter looking so happy, I couldn't say anything. Then let's go. There were a lot of things that caught my attention, but I decided to take it as a plus that he was trying to make time for our family in his own way. Well, let's go. It was difficult to prepare because of the suddenness, but when I realized that I had been traveling for a long time, I was also excited. The next day, my husband drove me to the hotel. At the rest stop where I stopped on the way, I decided to get out of the car to use the restroom. Take care of Tara, okay? Yes. My husband replies without looking at me while fiddling with his smartphone. Even on holidays, he received many calls while driving, wondering if it was getting a call for work. I was a little worried about leaving my daughter with him, but I was going to go back to the car soon, so I went straight to the bathroom. However, my judgment was wrong. When I got back to the car after a while, my daughter was not there. "Oh, where is Tara?" "After you left, she followed you, saying she is going to the bathroom too." "Oh, she is not coming to me." From there, we rushed to find Tara. However, even though the rest stop is not so large, I can't find my daughter at all. Anxiety and impatience swell in my chest. However, when I look at Aaron, he seems to be exchanging messages on his smartphone, and he doesn't seem to be in a hurry. "Hey, are you focused?" "I'm busy with my business." In the first place, a stay-at-home wife takes care of the children. It doesn't matter now, I asked you to take care of her. In the first place, it's your fault that you took your eyes off, so look for her by yourself. When I was stunned by the unexpected reply, he ignored me and got into the car. Hey, where are you going?" "The trip is cancelled." "I've also contacted the service center here and the police about Tara. They will contact you when they find her, so you don't have to do anything." My husband was so flustered that I felt uncomfortable, but before I could say anything, the car started to run off and disappeared from my sight. What should I do? I was overwhelmed by the impatience of being left behind and the anxiety of not being able to find my daughter, but I was sure that my husband would have found me if he had contacted the police or the service center in his own way. Anyway, I started looking for Tara again to do what I could. And before I knew it, I was running around the rest stop for 2 hours. What happened to the police? What are you doing? I still haven't heard from anyone. My husband told me not to call the police, but I'm starting to wonder if he's really telling me, and maybe he lied. Report it myself. And that's when I took out my phone and tried to make a call. Tara. To my surprise, my daughter came out from behind a car in the parking lot. Where have you been? I was playing with the woman, who is a friend of my dad, in the park over there. Tara answers while crying, probably because my way to asking has become too tight. I thought that he must have gotten in a car and traveled because he pointed to the outside of the rest stop while saying, over there, but I was relieved to find it for the time being. You go somewhere without permission, okay? Yes, I'm sorry. I hugged Tara tightly, held her hand tighter than usual that day, and took the bus home. The next day, when it was time for the sun to set, Aaron finally came home. Where have you been? You don't get through to the phone, reply to my messages. It's none of your business, you know, I'm tired. Don't squeak. Tara was missing. Oh my gosh, I knew from your message that Tara was okay, so that's fine. Then he went straight to the bedroom. It's an unbelievable attitude. But I didn't talk to him anymore that day, because I was too tired from running around looking for Tara. However, the next day, I received a phone call and found out something unexpected. No way, that's not true. I tried to hope for it in my heart, but the more I thought about it, the worse I could imagine. When I hurriedly contacted a certain place, it led to even more conviction. Absolutely unforgivable. That night, I decided to take action. Actually, my mom is sick and I have to take care of her, so I'm going back to my parents' house with Tara for a week. What are you going to do with the mess and the laundry? You can only do housework, but you can't skip it to take care of your parents. I told him that I was sick and I didn't think he would react, but I couldn't argue with him here, so I gave him more money for food and left. However, after leaving my daughter at my parents' house, I was staying at the motel near my home. I went home while my husband was at work and set up small cameras throughout the house so that I could watch his activities at home in real time on my phone while staying in the motel. All I have to do is wait and see. The first and second days passed without incident, but on the third day, the decisive moment finally came. To my surprise, my husband brought a strange woman home. She looks like a flashy girl in her late 20s. From their friendly appearance, I can see that the relationship between the two has been going on for a long time. My husband and her took the wine they had bought and went straight to bed. I knew it. I left the motel with my bag and headed straight home. And after returning home, I secretly entered the house and put my ear to the bedroom door, and I heard the sweet voices of them from inside. It really sucks to bring the woman home. Nausea and anger set in, and I clenched my fists tightly and opened the bedroom door as hard as I could. Hey, what are you doing? Huh? What? What? Oh, why are you here? A woman and my husband were surprised. I pointed to the camera that was secretly tucked away in the closet. It's a lie that my mother is sick, the truth is that I was watching you on camera there. Why are you doing that? What's wrong with setting up a camera in my house? I told the two of them that they were not wearing anything and hurriedly put on the sheets. In fact, While Aaron was at work, I received a call from the hotel where we were planning to stay, saying that she had forgotten about women's cosmetics. I immediately felt that something was wrong, so I agreed to the story. And that's when I learned that Aaron stayed at the inn with a woman who claimed to be his wife, saying that his daughter was sick and couldn't come here. I didn't think you would be having fun with a cheating partner when our daughter was missing. It's all Natalie's fault. He glared at the woman next to him, whom he called Natalie, and told me about the day our daughter went missing. Originally, he was planning to celebrate the birthday of his cheating partner at the inn that day, but they had a fight on the day before, so Aaron suddenly changed it to a family trip. However, when she found out, she tracked down us and took Tara out to the rest stop to get angry. She threatened to spend her birthday together if I wanted her back, so I had no choice but to cancel the family vacation. It's your fault, you don't break up with your wife, and say you changed our trip to a family trip. I was so angry that I thought I'd mess it up. Look, she is insane. So it's all her fault. What? You enjoy your trip with me. I'm dismayed by their childish motives, but I'm just as tired of my husband taking the attitude that he's not bad. Well, I know how it happened. And I let out a small breath there and then looked straight at him. No matter what the reason, I can't forgive you for cheating, let's divorce. Are you serious? I thought I was saying goodbye in a very serious way, but I was surprised at first that he didn't understand it, but gradually the tone changed to a spatula tone. Hey, you're just kidding, right? I'm serious. You can't get a divorce when you have a kid. Are you trying to get my attention by threatening a divorce? If that's the case, it's counterproductive and you should stop it. Why does he think divorce is impossible after all this? It's useless to talk any more to my husband. I pulled the divorce papers out of my bag and threw them at him. I've filled it out, so write your name, and I'll tell you again, I am serious. At that point, I began to get impatient that Aaron finally understood my feelings. Oh, are you serious? Can you get a divorce and raise Tara alone? You've never worked before. When I graduated from university, I became a full-time housewife without becoming a full-time employee, so I never had a proper job, as he said. I'll do anything for Tara, though you might not know how I feel if you're the kind of person who gets into bed with the guy who took my daughter out. At my sarcasm, he bit his lip and choked on his words. Besides, I'm going to ask you to pay child support, and I'm going to get alimony. I've already consulted with a lawyer. I'm recording this situation right now, so be prepared to go above the market price. Wait, I've been playing with Natalie and I've spent all of my savings. I don't care. Where did the initial momentum go? And Aaron's face turned bluer and bluer. You're the one I love, Natalie is a game. I beg you, please don't leave me. I can't believe those words, and I said I can't forgive the affair itself, right? Who's going to take care of me? I can't cook food by myself. I felt sorry for my husband for thinking about such things after this. I felt sorry for my husband, who really only thought about himself, and wondered why he married this person. It's okay, divorce. You said you wanted to be with me. I'll take care of the housework. You can't even cook, I only chose you as a playmate because you were young and good-looking. Huh? What the heck is that? Who do you really think like a woman who would do that to a child in a fight? And I was tired of the two of them arguing endlessly. I almost forgot to tell you. Natalie, I handed in a report to the police. Huh? Why? You took my daughter out without permission, right? Natalie's face, which had been red with excitement until then, quickly turned blue and froze. Next to her, my husband is nervous, saying, "You don't have to go that far. For the time being, if you want to contact me in the future, go through a lawyer." I put my lawyer's business card on the table and left. I heard Aaron calling me out from behind me, but I ignored it and slammed the door. After that, Aaron and I officially divorced. Since there was solid evidence, I was able to claim an alimony of $40,000, which is more than the market price, to my husband and his cheating partner, respectively, and receive it firmly. Natalie did not enter the jail, but she was fined a large amount, and Natalie rushed to Aaron's workplace and found out about the affair in the company. Aaron, who retired and had nowhere to go, seems to have lived with Natalie. However, the quarrel was constantly due to the fact that Aaron, who had no money and no job, and Natalie left and went missing. Eventually, I hear that he is living alone in an old apartment and looking for a new job. On the other hand, I went back to my parents' house with Tara. Now I'm looking for my own job while my parents take care of my daughter. I have started studying bookkeeping and computers, and I am steadily preparing to become a full-time employee as soon as I get the chance. I will do my best for the happiness of Tara in the future. On a sunny afternoon, sunlight was streaming through the window as I sat on the living room sofa, hugging my stuffed animal, Mr. Bunny. In the kitchen, my new mom was making snacks for Amy. The sweet aroma of chocolate chip cookies filled the entire room. Outside the window, I could occasionally hear sirens from ambulances heading to Mayo Clinic. That's where Dad is building a new ward. Dad told me that's also where my real mom received treatment for a long time. "Amy, they're ready." Mom's gentle voice rang out. I could hear Amy's happy footsteps running toward the kitchen. I started to get up too. "Emma, no snacks for you today. You didn't clean up yesterday, remember?" Mom's voice sounded a bit cold. I clutched the star-shaped pendant hanging from my neck. Inside was a photo of my real mom, always smiling kindly. But before I could finish, Mom sighed. In the light streaming through the kitchen window, her profile looked like a shadow. "You're all ready." She stopped mid-sentence. That happens a lot lately. I could see Amy munching on cookies with a big smile on her face. Even though she's my little sister, 4 years younger, lately Amy gets everything first: new clothes, toys, and Mom's affection. On Sundays, we have Sunday school at St. Mary's Church. Last week, Amy got lots of praise from Mom for singing hymns beautifully. I sang too, but Mom pretended not to notice. Still, the light streaming through the church's stained glass windows shines equally on everyone. But Dad is different. I'm home. Late in the evening, Dad's voice came from the entrance. Construction site dust clung to his work clothes. He always makes sure to stop by my room. Sometimes he even brings me hot cocoa from Caribou Coffee. "Emma, how was your day?" Dad's large hand patted my head. "A bit rough, but warm." "Mom again." Dad's expression clouded slightly. Outside the window, the evening sky was turning red. But Dad quickly returned to his gentle smile. Emma, remember that Dad will always protect you, no matter what. Saying this, Dad gave me a tight hug. His work clothes smelled of concrete. That smell has become my most comforting scent now. On weekends, our family goes to Silver Lake Park near our house on Elton Hills Drive. Amy loves the swings. Mom always pushes her gently. I sit alone in the shade, reading the book I brought. Books are the only things they haven't taken away yet. In my room, toys are gradually disappearing. You're too old for these now, Mom says as she cleans them out. But I know they're all actually being moved to Amy's room. Mom says first graders at Jackson Elementary shouldn't play with toys anymore. Yesterday, my beloved doll Jenny disappeared. When I was looking for her, Mom said, "You don't need such baby toys anymore, do you?" I could only nod silently. But that night, I thought I heard Jenny's voice coming from Amy's room. At night, when I open the star-shaped pendant in bed, I can see my real mom's smile. Dad says I have the same big brown eyes as her, and the same long black hair. In the photo, Mom is sitting on a bed at Mayo Clinic, smiling. This pendant that Dad told me to treasure has been my most precious possession since my real mom went to heaven when I was 4. Lately, at night, I hear voices from downstairs. Mom talking to someone on the phone. Arguing with Dad. They try to speak quietly so I can't hear, but I still do. About that child. But Michael. Absolutely not. When Dad's voice became unusually stern, I felt a little scared. On the other side of the wall, Amy was singing happily. But during the day, Mom still greets the neighbors with her usual kind smile. At PTA meetings and Sunday school, everyone calls her the ideal mother. The customers who meet her at the salon in Apache Mall say the same thing. She braids Amy's hair beautifully and buys her cute clothes. I have to tie my own hair now. Still, I try hard in front of the mirror. I'm proud of my long black hair, just like my real mom's. But last week, Mom said, "Shouldn't we cut that hair?" Today too, Minnesota's gentle early summer sunlight streams through the window. Cars line up in the Hy-Vee supermarket parking lot as people shop. But somehow, it feels like this house is getting colder and colder. Amy's laughter, Mom's sighs, and Dad's worried eyes swirl around inside this house. At times like these, I always clutch my star-shaped pendant. It feels like my real mom's warmth is still here. But lately, I've noticed Mom giving strange looks to this pendant, as if it's something that shouldn't be here. Summer vacation is approaching. At school, everyone's talking excitedly about their plans. Jessica is going to Disneyland. Tommy is going camping at his grandmother's house. When asked, "What about you, Emma?" I couldn't answer. Because Mom hasn't told me anything. That day, walking home alone as usual, I heard a voice from behind. "Emma." When I turned around, Dad's car was pulling up. Unusually, he had come to pick me up in the middle of his workday. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Today's special," Dad said with a smile. "Let's go get some ice cream." We stopped at Perkins' restaurant. Dad always likes their vanilla shakes. But today, his expression seemed a bit harder than usual. Emma, how are things going with Mom? Dad asked gently as we drank our shakes. Outside the window, an ambulance passed by heading to Mayo Clinic. Mom seems to like Amy more than me. Dad listened quietly. Then, he took a small piece of paper from his pocket. This is Dad's phone number. Always keep it with you. If anything happens, call right away. That night when we got home, Mom was standing at the entrance with her arms crossed. Where were you? I was worried. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes weren't smiling. With Dad. I see, Mom said curtly and turned away. From that weekend, things in my room started to change. Books disappeared from the bookshelf. Clothes vanished from drawers. In their place, old clothes were brought up from the basement. You're growing so fast. It would be wasteful to buy new things that you'll outgrow quickly. Mom said this as she left for the Apache Mall children's clothing department with Amy. I was left at home. On Sunday at St. Mary's Church Sunday School, the teacher talked about heaven. Heaven is a very peaceful and beautiful place. I was thinking about my real mom. I wonder if she's watching me from heaven now. As I held my pendant thinking this, I heard new Mom's voice from beside me. Emma, isn't it time you took off that old pendant? The light from the church's large stained glass windows illuminated Mom's face in an eerie way. That night, I had a bad dream. In a dark place, someone was calling my name. But I couldn't see who it was. When I tried desperately to run, my body wouldn't move. Dad! Mom! When I woke up screaming, I could hear Amy crying. Through the wall, Mom's voice gently soothing her. I wiped away my cold sweat alone. The next day, when I returned from school, the star-shaped pendant was gone from my room. While I was searching desperately, Mom came into the room. Looking for something. Mom's voice had a different tone than usual. The pendant. Oh, that old thing. I threw it away. You're a big girl now, you can't keep clinging to baby memories, right? In that moment, a cold feeling rose from my feet. Everything went dark, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. You can't throw it away. It's from my real mom. Just as I screamed, Dad came home. The sound of work boots rushing up the stairs. What happened? Dad's voice echoed. Michael, this child. Mom started to explain. Sarah, Dad's voice was low and strong. You promised. That night, I heard voices from downstairs again. This time, Mom and Dad were arguing loudly. I absolutely won't allow it. But look at reality. Emma is my daughter. Mixed with the arguing voices was Amy's crying. I curled up small in my bed, clutching the piece of paper with Dad's phone number under my pillow. The next morning at breakfast, Mom was acting brighter than usual. Amy's pancakes had plenty of maple syrup. My portion was more than usual. I'm sorry about yesterday, I said something unforgivable, Mom smiled kindly. Actually, I was planning a surprise. Let's go for a family picnic at Cascade Lake. Dad nodded too. But was it my imagination that his eyes looked a bit sad? First, let's take some medicine to prevent catching a cold. Mom held out a small white pill. When I saw it, for some reason my spine went cold. But Dad said, "That's right, so it must be okay, right?" After breakfast, Mom started preparing a large picnic basket. Ham and cheese sandwiches, fruit, and lemonade she said she bought from Hy-Vee. A nostalgic smell wafted from the kitchen. Amy was happily showing off her new swimsuit. "Emma, you changed too." When I turned at Mom's voice, she held out an old swimsuit. It was Amy's size from last summer. A bit small, but I couldn't complain. Dad unusually took the day off to drive us. In the car, Amy sang along with the music on the radio. I looked out the window from the back seat. The white building of Mayo Clinic grew distant, the place where my real mom spent her final days. When we arrived at Cascade Lake, several families were already playing happily. Mom spread out a sheet in the shade and started distributing sandwiches. My portion was more than usual too. "Emma, today is a special day." Mom said this as she held out a cup of lemonade. A sweet, cold drink. But it had a strange taste. "I mixed in your medicine. You couldn't take it yesterday, after all." I saw Dad nod silently. When our eyes met, Dad gave a small smile, but he looked somewhat sad. After a while, my body started feeling heavy. The voices of the children around me gradually grew distant. "Mom. It's okay, Emma. You can rest now." Mom's voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a deep well. "Dad." A large hand stroked my head. That was the last thing I remember. When I woke up, it was pitch black. Narrow. Hard to breathe. When I reached out, something hit just above me. It felt like soft fabric. When I spread both hands, they hit walls. "Where am I?" My own voice echoed very small. In the distance, I could hear something. The sound of a pipe organ. A hymn perhaps. Like what I heard at St. Mary's Church. "Dad." Even when I screamed, no one answered. "Mom." Real mom. Or new mom. I don't know which one I'm calling anymore. In the darkness, I desperately started beating on the top with both hands. "Someone. Someone help me." I screamed until my voice gave out. Then I heard something move. The sound of a heavy lid slowly opening. Light from outside came in as a thin line. Light so bright it made my eyes hurt. In it, I could see figures in black clothes. At that moment, I understood everything. That this was a church, and I was in a coffin. When the lid opened completely, I slowly sat up. The people in black clothes stepped back one after another. Someone screamed. Someone started praying. And I saw Mom, standing in the front row, about to faint with a pale face. "Dad, where was Dad?" This is. The pastor was trying to say something in a trembling voice. Just then, the church doors burst open with a loud sound. People in uniforms came in one after another. Police. Paramedics. Emma Bryant. Unknown adults were calling my name. "Thank goodness you're safe." If we'd been a few minutes later, We secured the evidence. The suspect. In the confusion, one voice came through clearly. Emma. It was Dad. Still in his work clothes, he ran forward. His arms lifting me were trembling slightly. You must have been scared. Large tears fell from Dad's eyes. But it's okay now. Dad promised to protect you, remember? In the light streaming through the church's stained glass windows, I could see Sarah being taken away by the police. The sound of Amy crying. Yet somehow, in Dad's arms, I wasn't scared anymore. Dad, why? Dad hugged me tighter. Because Dad will do anything to protect Emma. I still don't fully understand the meaning of those words. But as I buried my face in Dad's chest, I understood one thing. This isn't the end. It's a new beginning. The church bells ring slowly, as if announcing the beginning of my new life. On the way back from church, Dad's car drove down unfamiliar roads. The white building of Mayo Clinic and the neon signs of Apache Mall looked different than usual. We're going to a new house. Dad told me. In the back seat, I nodded silently. My body was still a bit heavy, and my head fuzzy. But strangely, I wasn't scared. The new house was near Silver Lake Park. A large maple tree cast shadows in the twilight sky. No one knows us here, so we can live quietly for a while. While Dad carried in the luggage, I looked out the window of my new room. The Rochester skyline in the distance. Car lights moving like tiny particles of light. That night, I learned many things for the first time. That Mom had been taken away by the police, that Amy would live at her grandmother's house, and Emma, Dad needs to tell you the truth. Late at night, Dad sat on the edge of the bed in my new room. Outside, autumn insects were chirping. Your mom, she tried to kill you. I couldn't understand the meaning of those words right away. But Dad knew. I heard her making suspicious phone calls. Dad's voice was trembling. So Dad had to pretend too. To let the police find evidence, to protect Emma. Dad's large hands were shaking. That medicine. At my small voice, Dad took a deep breath. It was sleeping pills. Dad adjusted the amount. That's why Emma woke up. So. Dad knew from the beginning. Yes. But I didn't have evidence of what your mom was really trying to do. So. Tears fell from Dad's eyes again. My acting must have scared you. I'm sorry. I shook my head. Somehow, my chest felt warm. Because Dad protected me. You promised. Then, the familiar star-shaped pendant came out of Dad's pocket. Actually, Dad was keeping it. I couldn't let your mom have it. The photo in the pendant was still smiling kindly. The next morning, Dad went to the police station. I stayed home watching TV. The news was reporting about what happened at St. Mary's Church. Stepmother arrested on attempted murder charges. Police acted on tip from father. Difficult words kept flowing. But I wasn't so scared anymore. Instead, a new life began. Morning started with Dad's slightly burnt pancakes. Sorry, I'm still not used to this. Dad laughed sheepishly. But to me, those pancakes tasted much better. I had to change schools too. From Jackson Elementary to a new school. I was a bit anxious at first, but everyone welcomed me warmly. Your father is such a wonderful person. Ms. Brown, my teacher, told me. On weekends, Dad and I go to Cascade Lake together. This time, there's nothing threatening us. Emma, you've learned to swim so well. Dad says proudly. I wave my arms big, making splashes. On my room's wall hangs a photo of my real mom. Near the bed is a new bookshelf. Dad bought back all the books I lost. Doll Jenny has become a new friend too. At night, when I open the star-shaped pendant, there are 2 photos inside. The photo of my real mom, and a recent photo of Dad and me. 2 happy memories. Dad. One night, I asked. Why did you try so hard for me? Dad thought for a moment before answering. Because you are my treasure. Even if we're not connected by blood, you're my precious daughter. With those words, I understood everything. A truth I hadn't noticed until now. But it didn't change anything. Rather, it made me feel even warmer inside. Now, Minnesota's autumn wind blows outside the window. I can hear ambulance sirens from the direction of Mayo Clinic. But I'm not scared anymore. In this room, in this house, with Dad. A new morning is about to begin. In a dimly lit laboratory, Jennifer Martin rubbed her tired eyes while staring at her computer screen. It was 7 a.m. after her night shift. As she immersed herself in reviewing the final data for a new pediatric cancer drug, her hand unconsciously reached for the pocket of her lab coat. From it, she pulled out a slightly worn photograph, an 8-year-old boy in a baseball uniform, beaming with joy. A smile involuntarily crossed her face. Lucas. As a senior researcher at Massachusetts General Hospital's Research Institute, Jennifer had dedicated her life to developing new treatments for children battling cancer. From the laboratory window, she could see the brick buildings of Harvard Medical School. The red brick walls, illuminated by the morning sun, seemed more vibrant than usual. On her desk lay stacks of experimental data untouched since last night. Next to them stood a vase of flowers that she changed every morning. Today, a single white flower bloomed quietly. Jenny, good work. Dr. Sarah Cohen, who had arrived early in the morning, offered her a warm cup of coffee. She was Jennifer's only true friend at the institute. Thank you, Sarah. Last night's data looks quite promising. Yes, the new drug for pediatric acute lymphoblastic leukemia has finally reached its final stage. Her passion for research had become her life itself. However, the child who had been the source of that passion was no longer in this world. Every morning, when the shadow of the Prudential Tower fell across the institute, she had a habit of looking at her son's photograph. It had become like a ritual to start each new day. Dr. Martin, could I get the materials for this morning's meeting? At a young researcher's voice, Jennifer hurriedly tucked away the photo and composed her expression. Yes, of course. I just finished the final data review. As she handed over the meticulously organized materials, she consciously maintained a bright demeanor. In the break room, colleagues were excitedly discussing their weekend family plans. When someone mentioned, "My child just started playing baseball too," her hands trembled slightly. She had developed a habit of discreetly excusing herself whenever such conversations arose. Outside the window, children were playing in the park, drawn out by the spring weather. The fresh greenery of Boston Common was shrouded in morning mist. Consciously avoiding that sight, Jennifer took a sip of her now lukewarm coffee. 3 years ago. That peaceful May morning had started like any other ordinary day. In the quiet residential area of Maple Street, the wind chimes swayed in the cool breeze from the Charles River, in a yard enclosed by white picket fences. "Mom, watch this." At the breakfast table, Lucas was enthusiastically reenacting his first hit from yesterday's baseball game. On the table sat Jennifer's favorite cereal bowl from the Boston kitchenware store. Lucas's bowl had blueberries arranged in his usual star pattern. "That's wonderful. We'll come watch your game this weekend. I'm looking forward to the Little League game. Is Dad coming too? Will he take videos like last time?" "Yes, he promised, didn't he?" Michael, reading the financial paper across the table, only managed a vague smile. His business trips had been increasing lately. Jennifer had unquestioningly accepted his explanation that he was busy with hospital management reforms. That morning, no one knew it would be their last family breakfast. While clearing the dishes, Jennifer slipped her usual message card into Lucas's lunchbox: "Have a wonderful day." In the early afternoon, Jennifer's cell phone rang, breaking the laboratory's silence with its sharp ring tone. An unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. "Mrs. Martin, your child has been in an accident. Please come to the hospital immediately." At the sudden call, the test tube slipped from her hands. Without even noticing the sound of breaking glass, she rushed out of the laboratory, practically throwing off her lab coat. When she arrived at the hospital, the emergency room was enveloped in a hectic atmosphere. The smell of disinfectant lingered in the hallway. Amidst the busy medical staff hurrying back and forth, Michael, who had already arrived, was calmly talking with the medical staff, befitting his role as the hospital's management planning director. There wasn't time to feel uneasy about his demeanor. "He's been taken to the operating room." At the nurse's words, Jennifer's world stopped. The waiting room. The couple sat quietly. No words were exchanged, only the merciless ticking of the clock continued. The painting on the wall showed a peaceful seaside scene. Its blueness now seemed strangely unsettling. Finally, in the deep of night, a tired-looking doctor informed them, "We did everything we could, but..." At that moment, color drained from Jennifer's life. However, she didn't yet know that this was just the beginning. The Boston night sky, where a drizzle had begun to fall, was engulfed in deep darkness, as if foreshadowing the long nightmare about to begin. The hospital corridor at midnight was coldly illuminated by fluorescent lights alone. The doctor's words, "The body was too severely damaged," echoed vaguely in Jennifer's ears. Michael stood beside her, but even his presence felt distant. "Please, just his face." To her pleading voice, the doctor shook his head apologetically. "I'm terribly sorry. Given the circumstances of the accident." The doctor's expression as he cut off his words held an uncomfortable shadow, but Jennifer was in no state to notice such subtle changes at the time. Just for a moment, Michael quietly exchanged glances with the doctor. The doctor heaved a deep sigh and gave instructions to the nurse. A small body covered by pure white sheets. Jennifer reached out with trembling hands, but "That's enough." Michael gently but firmly held back her hand. That night remains only in fragmentary memories. Michael swiftly handled the cremation arrangements. "I don't want to cause you any more pain," he said, and Jennifer silently nodded. 3 years later. The lights in the laboratory at Massachusetts General Hospital's Research Institute stayed on late into the night. Jennifer deliberately chose night shifts. Only the time spent facing minute experimental data in the dark laboratory barely kept her sane. Another all-nighter. Dr. Sarah Cohen called out with concern. "Yes, I need to analyze the new trial data. But you're pushing yourself too hard. You need rest." "This is all I have." Lucas's room at home remained exactly as it had been on the day of the accident. The baseball glove, his beloved dinosaur encyclopedia, the Boston Red Sox poster on the wall. It was painful to watch dust gather on them, but she didn't have the courage to clean them up. Conversations between the couple dwindled day by day. The breakfast table on weekends now only had settings for two. Where once there was lively chatter, now only the sound of rustling newspaper could be heard. Michael's business trips to the hospital increased even more, and sometimes she found herself staring at an empty chair even on weekends. One evening during dinner. "Jenny, we need to talk." Michael, unusually at home, began in a calm voice. "I think we can't go on like this. A new life. You want a divorce." Jennifer responded with surprising calmness. She felt neither sadness nor anger anymore. The divorce proceedings progressed surprisingly smoothly. Michael paid generous alimony, and Jennifer kept the house. Everything proceeded as if predetermined. However, in daily life, small inconsistencies began to pile up gradually. One day, while organizing old documents, she found the hospital bill from the time of the accident. Reading through the emergency treatment details, something felt off about the procedures and timing. However, she dismissed it as possibly misremembering. When she found her son's old baseball team uniform, something felt strange. The coach had started to say something about the accident, "It's really," before abruptly changing the subject. The parents of his teammates would awkwardly avert their eyes when they saw her. The school procedures had been oddly simplified too. Some documents that should have been necessary were said to be optional, and the administrative staff had seemed unusually nervous. When she tried to look up traffic accident records in Boston, there were puzzling responses. The records were said to be disposed of after the retention period, but 3 years seemed shorter than the usual retention period. Michael's behavior, in retrospect, had been unnatural. His calmness immediately after the accident. His rush to cremation. And how he skillfully avoided discussing the details of the accident. As a researcher, Jennifer was accustomed to not missing data inconsistencies or unnatural elements. However, at the time, deep grief had prevented her from focusing on these discrepancies. Walking home after her night shift along the Charles River, she could see a Little League game in the distance. The energetic voices of young players carried on the wind. As she paused, she thought she saw a familiar back beyond the field. But she didn't chase after that back. She wasn't ready yet to accept the truth. Late at night in the laboratory, Jennifer was again facing experimental data. Her lab coat pocket still held her son's photograph as always. As she peered into the microscope, her cell phone rang. A call from an unknown number. "Mrs. Martin, your child has been brought to the hospital." At that moment, the test tube dropped from her hand. Glass fragments scattered across the floor, where the smell of disinfectant lingered. There must be some mistake. "My son 3 years ago." But her words were cut short. The words from the other end of the line would once again dramatically shake her world. "We identified him from his belongings. His name was on a baseball glove." The cell phone fell to the floor, its screen cracking from the impact. But Jennifer could still hear the voice leaking from the phone. "Mrs. Martin. Mrs. Martin." She picked up the phone with trembling hands. The glass fragments scattered on the white laboratory floor created eerie patterns as they reflected the fluorescent light. "Please, tell me where." Her voice was hoarse. Her throat was dry. "Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center Emergency Department. Please come as soon as possible." Before hanging up, Jennifer was already running. Throwing off her lab coat, she raced through the late-night institute. Her footsteps echoed in the dark hallway. With no time to wait for the elevator, she rushed down the emergency stairs. Bursting out the institute's back door, the early summer night air struck her cheeks. Her hand trembled as she hailed a taxi. "To Beth Israel Hospital, please hurry." The Boston nightscape flowing past the car window seemed distorted like a nightmare. The Prudential Tower's lights floated in the dark sky. The surface of the Charles River shimmered silver in the moonlight. Lucas, could it be? That day 3 years ago flashed back like a flashback. "We did everything we could, but..." The body was too severely damaged. "I don't want to cause you any more pain." Michael's words, the doctor's expression, the nurse's behavior. All memories came rushing back with new meaning. Inconsistencies she hadn't noticed before suddenly became clear. When the taxi arrived at the hospital, it was already past 2 a.m. The emergency entrance's automatic doors opened. The smell of disinfectant once again stung her nose. "Mrs. Martin. This way please." A young nurse guided her. Her steps were heavy. Her heart was pounding rapidly. A police officer was waiting in front of the emergency treatment room. "Mrs. Martin, let me explain the situation." A middle-aged detective began speaking in a quiet voice. "The boy was in a traffic accident on Beacon Street in Brookline. He's conscious but suspected of having a mild concussion." Jennifer could only hear the sound of her own heartbeat. The detective's words reached her like distant echoes. "We identified him from his belongings. There was a baseball glove with the name Lucas Martin written on it." She stopped in front of the treatment room curtain. Her hands were shaking. Cold sweat ran down her back. Taking a deep breath, she slowly opened the curtain. There, lying on the bed, was a boy. Perhaps 11 years old now. He had grown taller. The contours of his face had changed slightly. But it was unmistakably her son. "Lucas." The boy's eyes slowly opened. The color of his eyes was the same gentle brown as 3 years ago. Mom. With that one word, all emotions flooded out. Tears streamed down her cheeks. As her body nearly collapsed, the detective supported her. Are you really alive? Her son had a bandage wrapped around his forehead and an four in his arm. Yet he was undeniably there. Breathing. Alive. I've been looking for you. Lucas's voice trembled. I found the hospital where you work from a photo. The story gradually became clear. At a private hospital in Portland, Maine, Lucas had been held captive for 3 years under the pretext of memory disorder treatment. His education was minimal homeschooling. Contact with the outside world was strictly limited. But when I was watching a Red Sox game on TV, when Fenway Park appeared, your memories came back. Yes, little by little. Then I found a medical journal with your photo. With strength unexpected for an 11-year-old boy, Lucas had planned his escape. The blind spots in the hospital's security system. Staff shift changes. He observed everything, took notes, and waited for his chance. I finally managed to escape this morning. I took a bus, but when I tried to cross the street in Boston, his voice trailed off. The impact of the accident seemed to run through his body again. In the hallway, detectives were talking in hushed voices. Words like "suspect Michael Martin's whereabouts" could be heard. The truth was more complex than imagined. Michael had been having an affair with a woman he met at the hospital. To start a new life with her, he planned to eliminate his son's existence. Using his position at the hospital, he executed a kidnapping disguised as an accidental death. He bought off collaborators, falsified records, and carried out perfect cover-up operations. Ma'am, could you please review these documents? The stack of papers the detective handed over contained numerous shocking pieces of evidence. A forged death certificate. Falsified accident reports. A list of medical staff involved in the cover-up. Email records between Michael and his mistress. Suspicious bank transfer histories. Everything had been planned. However, there was one element this perfect plan hadn't accounted for. That was the strong will of an 11-year-old boy to find his mother. Dawn was approaching. Through the hospital room window, a faint sunrise could be seen. Beyond the Charles River, a new day was about to begin. Jennifer held her son's hand tightly. Feeling his small warmth, she made a vow. Never again would she let go of this hand. Mom, you must be tired. Lucas looked up at his mother with concern. I'm fine. There's nothing to fear anymore. In the hallway, police activity was becoming more hectic. But now, such things seemed trivial. While watching her son's sleeping face, Jennifer thought about the new days ahead. About the time regained. And about moving forward in life, even while carrying wounds that would never fully heal. The morning at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center began quietly. With the sunrise, details of the incident gradually came to light. Suspect Michael Martin has been apprehended in Portland, Maine. Arrest warrants have also been issued for the accomplices. Conversations between police officers in the hallway leaked into the hospital room. Outside the window, reporters were beginning to gather. The headline, "Prominent Hospital Executive's Kidnapping Case," was already running in breaking news. Jennifer remained motionless, holding the hand of the sleeping Lucas. With dawn, reality was gradually sinking in. "Mrs. Martin." Detective Thomas O'Connor quietly knocked on the door. "We'd like to hear the details of your situation." Jennifer looked at her son's sleeping face and nodded slightly. Before leaving the room, she asked Nurse Jeanette to watch over him. The police interview room was temporarily borrowed from the hospital. On the wall hung a diagram of the case relationships. It showed the incredible truth in its entirety. Michael and Emergency Department Chief Sarah Williams had been involved for 5 years. To start a new life together, they planned to eliminate Lucas, their biggest obstacle. Using the hospital's systems and connections, they crafted a perfect kidnapping plan. These are the detailed records of the staged accident. Detective O'Connor spread out the documents. The accident scene photos, emergency transport records, everything was meticulously prepared. The body had been cleverly switched with that of a child who had died in another accident. Michael's position at the hospital and Sarah Williams' influence in her department silenced many witnesses. But why didn't anyone notice? Jennifer's voice trembled. According to testimonies, all involved staff were only given partial information. Only those two knew the complete picture. The interview lasted 3 hours. During this time, anger and sadness intermingled in Jennifer's heart. Betrayal from a loved one. 3 years stolen. And above all, the loneliness and fear her son must have endured. When she returned to the hospital room, Lucas was awake. Talking with the nurse by the window, he looked just like any ordinary boy. However, in the depths of his eyes quietly resided the weight of those 3 years. "Mom, I'm hungry." A smile unconsciously spread across her face. How precious such a simple, everyday phrase could feel. "What would you like to eat?" "A hamburger and a Fenway hot dog." "Fenway?" "Yes. I want to go watch baseball again." At those words, tears welled up in Jennifer's eyes. Her heart swelled with emotion at her son's strength, how he was trying to look forward despite experiences that could have easily left him traumatized. A few days later, the hotel ballroom serving as the press conference venue was packed with reporters. After consulting with her lawyer, Jennifer had decided to speak in public just once. "My son endured 3 years of loneliness and fear, and found his way back to me on his own." The conference room fell dead silent. "From now on, we ask for our right to live a peaceful life as mother and son." That night, walking through the hospital corridors, Jennifer was thinking about returning to the research institute, about her new life with her son, and about the numerous challenges they would have to face. "Hey, Mom." Lucas called out from his hospital bed. "You know, my dream for the future has changed." "Oh? You don't want to be a baseball player anymore?" "No. I want to be a researcher. Like you, Mom, someone who makes medicine to help people." At those words, Jennifer held her son tightly. 6 months later, 2 sets of footsteps echoed through the corridor of Massachusetts General Hospital Research Institute. "Is this where you work, Mom?" "Yes. Today you get a special tour." In the laboratory, colleagues in their usual white coats were busy working. Lucas peered with interest at the microscopes and experimental equipment. What does this machine do? It's equipment for making new drugs that suppress cancer cell growth. Amazing. On weekends, he returned to Little League games. His teammates warmly welcomed back their old friend. On the field, his old carefree smile was gradually returning. At twilight, in their apartment along the Charles River, mother and son were about to begin dinner. The table was set with Lucas's favorite lasagna. Outside the window, the lights of the Prudential Tower were beginning to glow softly. "Mom, you know." Setting down his fork, Lucas began speaking with a serious expression. "I really want to be a researcher. Someone who can help people." "I see." Jennifer felt proud while being surprised by the strength of her son's determination. "Then, let's work hard together." In the vase on the dining table was a single white flower. Its pure white petals shone like a symbol of new hope. Outside the window, a peaceful night was descending on the city of Boston. Tomorrow, a new day would begin. Another page would be added to the recovered daily life of mother and son. From the television came news about the trial of Michael and his accomplices. However, that already felt like a distant story. "Mom, can I go to the Research Institute tomorrow too?" "Yes, of course." Everything was moving toward a new beginning. Grandpa is in trouble. My 5-year-old niece was a girl who sometimes said the strangest things. It was often a prediction about the future of the family. At this time, my father had collapsed from a heart attack. And this niece's power was fully demonstrated when my husband took certain behavior. It was when my husband came back from a business trip and she said, "I feel sorry if you throw away only your head in the mountain. You need to bury them together." This represented what she said. "My name is Melanie and I am 38 years old. My husband Niall is 2 years older than me and he is 40 years old. We were married in the workplace 13 years ago. We still work for the same company, although in different departments. For 13 years after we got married, we even went through fertility treatments in hopes of having a child, but the results did not show up, and eventually we decided to live 2 of us alone. There is not a day that goes by that I don't imagine how much fun it would have been to have a child, but even so, my life together with my husband was enjoyable in its own way and I was content. Besides, my sister had a daughter, Tara, who is now 5 years old. She is a cute little girl, and she is very friendly with me. She comes to our house about twice a month, and it is our custom to have dinner together. For these dinners, I have even been researching menus that I think the kids will like. Now, I enjoy making a menu that Tara will enjoy. Tara has a little mysterious power. At first, it was a trivial thing, so I didn't pay attention to it. It was when she came to visit us, she would say, "You're having pasta for dinner tonight, aren't you?" I love pasta, and she guessed exactly what was on the menu for dinner. No one had told her, and moreover, I was just about to go out shopping, but Tara guessed it right on the spot. After that, Tara's mysterious powers continued to be demonstrated. That was before my father's illness was discovered. She said suddenly, "Grandpa is in trouble." I didn't know what was so serious at the time, but a few days later, my father had a heart attack. He had always had a chronic heart condition, but Tara predicted my father's stroke when she said, "Grandpa is in trouble." I knew without a doubt that Tara had foreseen my father's attack. From then on, whenever Tara told us that someone was in trouble, we would watch carefully. And then the day came. Again, Tara said, "My great-grandma is in trouble." My grandmother was already hospitalized with terminal cancer. If my grandmother is in trouble, does it mean that she is dying soon? The whole family kept a close eye on my grandmother's condition. And then, a few days later, my grandmother breathed her last. I thought of that, and counted the days from the day she predicted my father's attack to the day he collapsed, and the days from the day she predicted my grandmother's death to the day she really died, and it was exactly 4 days. Thus, 4 days after Tara's prediction of "someone is in trouble," it became a common theory that something would happen. After that, she said to me, "Auntie Melanie is in trouble." I had no pre-existing condition and had no idea what the trouble was. However, 4 days after Tara said so, something always happens. It was a confirmed fact, so I went about my daily life after those 4 days, being very careful. Then, I was on my way home. I was waiting at a traffic light on a busy street when a car plowed into me from behind, honking its horn. I immediately thought, is this what Tara predicted? And I was able to avoid the car. The car just rammed on an electric pole at a tremendous speed and was badly damaged. It is no exaggeration to say that I was saved thanks to Tara's foresight. I was able to return home without any problems after that, so I knew that Tara's prediction was a traffic accident. I called Tara as soon as I arrived home. "Tara, thank you for today. I was relieved owing to you. Thank you so much for telling me that I will be in trouble." Tara seemed so happy that I could tell even through the phone, and said, "Ha ha ha, I'm so glad nothing happened to Auntie Melanie." Tara's power seems to only apply to family members at the moment, but I felt that it is also a power that should not be revealed to anyone. If it were to be misused, it would be Tara who would be hurt. However, there was one person who was uncomfortable with this power, and that was my husband. My husband also loved Tara very much when she was little. However, when this power was demonstrated, he started to distance himself from Tara. I once asked my husband, "Do you already hate Tara?" He replied, "Not exactly, but it's kind of creepy, isn't it? It's one thing to guess what you're going to have for dinner, but to guess what's going to kill you or what's going to make you sick. Don't ever tell anyone else that she has that kind of power." How could he say that about our lovely niece, that she is creepy? I don't think there is any need to hate Tara in such a way, even though her power is something that applies only to our family. No matter how many times I told my husband not to give Tara the cold shoulder, it didn't help, so I decided that he and Tara should have as little contact as possible. Well, as I tried to avoid contact with Tara, to my surprise, my husband began to avoid me as well. First, he started coming home late. When he came home, we hardly ever spoke, and the only thing he would say was, "You're getting ready for a bath, aren't you?" Of course, when I tried to talk to him, he would say, "I'm tired from work, please be quiet," and would not speak at all. Even on holidays, he goes somewhere by himself. He never seems to say where he is going. In addition, I feel that his opportunities to go on business trips have increased. Originally, he went on a business trip once a month, but the number has increased to 2 or 3 times. I had no idea what this meant at the time, but one day an incident occurred. My husband was going on a business trip starting that day. It was for day and night. My sister and her family were going to stay with us during this period. I finished my work on time and went home as soon as I could. Soon after, my sister and her family arrived. "Hey, everyone, welcome. I'm going to cook dinner now, so please wait here for a moment." Then Tara said, "Dinner tonight is hamburgers, right?" With her usual mysterious power, she guessed it right on the spot. Yes, hamburgers. Will you help me?" I was no longer surprised by her power and asked Tara to help me. Yes. Tara cheerfully responded, and we began preparing hamburgers. We finished cooking dinner and spent a pleasant dinner time with my sister and her family. I took a bath with Tara and we had a parent-child kind of time. Then, in no time at all, it was time for Tara to go to bed. Now it was time to enjoy drinks with my sister and her husband. I casually mentioned that my husband was avoiding me. "I feel Niall has been avoiding me lately. He comes home late, and we don't talk much anymore. What could be the reason?" "Oh, isn't it just your imagination? Niall has always cared about you, hasn't he?" "I don't know. But he seems to be going on more business trips, and he also goes out alone on his days off. He doesn't say anything to me, so I'm worried." "If you are so worried about him, why don't you ask someone at the workplace? You work in a different department, but at the same company. You must at least know someone there, right?" When my sister's husband told me this, I finally came up with the idea. "Oh, right. I should just ask them." I thought there was nothing I could do about it. I should have done what I had to do before worrying about it. Once I thought that, I suddenly felt energized. I decided to talk to my colleagues at work as soon as possible tomorrow. In the meantime, it was 2300 hours at night. It was time to go to bed or I would have trouble tomorrow. Then Tara, who I thought was sleeping, woke up. "Uncle Niall is coming home. Something is weird," she said. "Tara, Uncle Niall isn't coming home today, okay?" I said so, but she said, "No, he's not. He is already on his way here. He will be here soon." If Tara said so, it must be so. But why would he come home at such a late time when he said he was on a business trip? I have also been feeling somewhat disturbed. Soon after, the front door was open. We all went to the front door to meet my husband, who looked gaunt and tired. As soon as she saw him, Tara said, "Uncle Niall, I feel sorry if you throw away only your head in the mountain. You need to bury them together." "What?" My sister and her husband and I, who were there, looked at Tara, and our heads were filled with question marks. But my husband was different. Distraught by Tara's words, he took out a self-defense bat that we had kept in the umbrella stand. He swung it at Tara. "Look out!" I shouted, and immediately my sister's husband stepped in between us. He caught the bat, picked it up, twisted up my husband's arm, and seized him. What an amazingly quick action. Come to think of it, my sister's husband had studied self-defense. He would never have thought that self-defense would come in handy in a situation like this. My husband, who had been held down on the ground, was initially flailing about, but gradually gave up and became quiet. My sister was hugging Tara. I decided to talk to my husband, who was being restrained. "Honey, no more outbursts. I'll get him to let go if you promise." My husband nodded slowly to my words. I asked my sister's husband to let go of his hand. Then my husband was released, but he was unable to move from that spot for a while. I urged him to stand and he finally did. Then we gathered once in the living room to talk to my husband. I would ask him to tell us what Tara had said earlier. I secretly started recording using the voice recorder function on my phone, just in case. If my husband tries to run away after this, I will submit this recording to the appropriate authorities. And he told us everything. These months. From the time he became cold to me, my husband had been having an affair. Her name is Bella. She is 28 years old, much younger than me. Half of his recent trips, which he claimed to be business trips, were cheating trips. Today, my husband went out with the intention of going on another affair trip. When they arrived at the hotel, they started fighting over a trivial matter. Then, the content of the conversation gradually changed to a request to leave me. My husband said that he had no intention of leaving me, although he was cold to me. I don't know if he meant it or not. Then, when he told her that he had no intention of leaving me, the fight heated up even more. The two of them got into a heated argument. Then it was my husband who lost his temper. When he pushed Bella too hard, she lost her balance, hit her head on the corner of the table, and fell down. At that time, my husband assumed that Bella had passed away, without really checking to see if she was really dead. Now only my husband himself knows whether she was really dead. Then, my impatient husband remembered something he had seen in the news recently about a body whose head had been cut off in order to delay the discovery that it was Bella. Thinking that if he did the same, it would surely delay the discovery of the dead body, so my husband left the hotel at once and purchased the necessary items, including a knife. He then cut off the head in the bathroom. He then snuck out of the hotel with the severed head and all of Bella's belongings. They buried the head in the mountain, just as Tara had said. As Tara said, the body is probably still at the hotel, undiscovered. I took a closer look at my husband's outfit and found that the hem and cuffs of his suit were stained with mud. Moreover, there was quite a lot of luggage. It must have contained Bella's luggage. Thus, my husband finished explaining most of the details. By then, Tara was completely in a dream. I don't know if Tara can understand this story, but I don't want to make her listen to this disgusting story. I am glad she went to bed early. When my husband finished the story, he said, "Can you please keep quiet about this? Because we're family, right? You'll protect me, right?" He clung to me. No way. If you honestly don't want to go to the police, we'll go to the police and tell them this story. I said coldly. But you don't have any proof. You don't know who Bella is or which hotel she stayed at from my story alone, do you? And you don't know which mountain Bella's head was dumped on. Or what? Are you going to ask Tara to predict which mountain Bella's head was dumped on? My husband's eyes were full of madness as he laughed. I thought it would be easy. If a body is found tomorrow morning with no head, and it is a woman named Bella, and I am sure it is my husband who is out of the loop, they will be able to track the city's security cameras and find out where he went in no time. If they know which mountain she is buried in, I think they can find Bella's head quickly using police dogs, police manpower, etc. I got this whole conversation recorded. If I take this to the police, I think it would make a great piece of evidence. It's not that I don't have any evidence. I think it would be better for you if you went to the police quietly, wouldn't you? When I finished my explanation, my husband sagged. The next day, I took him to the police station. The day before, while going through my husband's belongings, we found a package belonging to a woman named Bella. It contained an employee ID card, and I found out that she was my husband's subordinate at the same company. As long as they knew it was a subordinate, all they had to do was contact the company and they would know any information immediately. My husband would have come home with the package and hoped to delay the discovery, but on the contrary, it turned out to be an early discovery. Stupid husband. I thought he was too shallow to think. Well, I am sure that without Tara's words, the incident would not have even been discovered, but I am beginning to think that Tara's presence in our home was not a coincidence. It was inevitable that Tara was in our home. Speaking of which, I felt that Tara's behavior had changed a little. She has forgotten everything that happened yesterday. Her own words, "Feel sorry if you throw away only your head in the mountain," had all disappeared from her memory. Besides, I felt that the atmosphere had changed a little. She had looked more mature before, perhaps because of her mysterious power, but today she looked like an energetic girl of 5 years of age. Seeing this, my sister said, "I bet she can't even guess what we're having for dinner now." I had a feeling of that, too. It seemed that Tara's mysterious power had been used up yesterday. After that, my husband confessed everything to the police. He must have thought that he could no longer escape, as we admonished him to do. If he could not escape, I think he thought that he would get a lighter sentence by admitting his guilt. I mean, it seemed to me that it was impossible to get a lighter sentence for taking someone's life and breaking up the body, but if that's what my husband thought, I thought it was fine. We divorced while my husband was in prison. The fact that my husband was a murderer was unbearable, but more unforgivable was the fact that he had been unfaithful. We had a thorough discussion with my parents-in-law, and they agreed to cover the fees for the affair. I would have also filed a claim for alimony against a woman named Bella, but she passed away. I decided not to file a claim. I simply decided that it was better not to have anything more to do with Bella's bereaved family. My husband won't be able to get out of jail for a while. It is hard to believe that after all the things he has done, he is in the news and his sentence is so light. I hope he will spend his days reflecting on what he has done. On the other hand, I decided to quit the company I had worked for and change jobs. I didn't feel comfortable at the company where my husband and his adulterous partner were. It was not my intention to run away from the company, but I decided to quit because it would only make people around me feel uncomfortable. I was introduced to my new job at a business partner of the company where my sister's husband worked. The fact that I could earn the same amount of money as before was also a good point. I also moved out. I rented a new apartment that was large enough for one person. I didn't want to be far from Tara, so I rented an apartment not too far away. From now on, I hope to enjoy the single life and get along well with my sister and her family. I want to work hard and play hard so that my life alone will be enjoyable. My name is Mary Brown. I'm a 38-year-old clinical researcher who has spent over a decade developing new drugs at a biotech company in Tampa. As a team leader in neurology research, I've achieved numerous breakthroughs. My life was consumed by research until I met David, a marketing director. We met at a colleague's wedding. While I was engrossed in discussing research on the terrace, David casually offered me a glass of champagne. At 40, his gentle nature and sincere personality drew me in. Though soft-spoken, his eyes would light up when talking about work. I found myself falling for him. We decided to marry after dating for a year, with my age of 35 being a factor in the decision. Though the ceremony was small, it was heartwarming. However, something about David's mother Patricia's behavior that day caught my attention. I sensed her love for her son might be excessive. Married life turned out differently than I'd imagined, largely due to Patricia's presence. She played the role of the understanding mother-in-law on the surface. During weekend dinners, she'd prepare perfect roast chicken and cheerfully share stories from David's childhood. But her eyes always held unspoken emotions. When David wasn't around, she was like a different person, cold and distant. "Mary, you're really not the domestic type, are you? I know research is important, but are you really thinking about David?" Her casual conversations always contained criticism. I endured it silently. Because she was David's mother. Because I loved him. 3 years into our marriage, we experienced our long-awaited pregnancy. After fertility treatments and 4 rounds of IVF, I still vividly remember the joy when we finally got a positive result. David and I were overjoyed beyond words. On the drive home from the hospital, we discussed our future parenting plans. However, Patricia's reaction was complicated. "Congratulations." Her expression belied her words, clouded with concern. "Are you sure you'll be all right? At your age?" There was something unsettling about her response, as if she was thinking about something entirely different while staring at my belly. Patricia's words continued to have a sharp edge. "I suppose it's good David turned down that promotion. Balancing childcare and work is tough," she said with obvious sarcasm. David had declined a promotion that would have meant relocating to Chicago, considering my career. But Patricia seemed to hold a grudge about this, as if blaming me for destroying her son's chance to become a university professor. During my pregnancy, I continued working carefully at the research facility. Patricia wasn't pleased about this. "Don't you think you're working too much? When I was pregnant with David, I devoted everything to him." Such comments became more frequent. As my due date approached, Patricia suddenly offered to help with postpartum care. "I'll take care of you. Don't even think about going back to your parents' house." David was thrilled with the idea. True, it was more practical than calling my parents from California. Plus, Patricia was a former nurse. But something felt off. I sensed another motive behind her kindness. Having Mom help would be perfect. Facing David's beaming smile, I couldn't find a reason to refuse. And so, I decided to spend my postpartum period with my newborn at Patricia's house. That 80s-built house near Oak Grove Park would become the place where we'd nurture our new life. I should have trusted my instincts then. But who could have imagined the tragedy that would unfold on that peaceful spring morning? In Tampa's upscale suburbs, I would learn about the darkness in human hearts in exchange for a new life. It was a typical Florida March morning with pleasant breezes. The public supermarket sign gleamed in the morning sun, and neighbors enjoyed their morning jogs, the usual peaceful scene. Patricia's house overlooked Oak Grove Park from an elevated position. The 80s colonial-style house was distinguished by its solid red brick exterior and white window frames, with well-maintained front yard blooming with colorful azaleas. It appeared to be the perfect grandmother's house. Inside, the house was filled with attachments to the past. The hallway walls displayed David's growth chronologically: kindergarten recital, elementary school baseball team photos, high school graduation. His Yale University graduation photo occupied the most prominent position, surrounded by his numerous certificates proudly displayed. Our wedding photo, however, was placed modestly, almost hidden, in a shadowy spot by the stairs. "Oh, this photo might be too dark," Patricia had said. "But it won't be in the way here." I couldn't say anything in response. The living room was furnished entirely with antiques. A Victorian sofa, queen and side tables, and above the large fireplace hung a gold-framed mirror that appeared to be from the 19th century. In this perfect harmony, only the modern baby crib prepared for us seemed conspicuously out of place. Life after leaving the hospital began peacefully on the surface. Patricia was indeed experienced and impeccable in newborn care. However, that very perfection became increasingly burdensome. "Oh, the diaper's slightly crooked. Your poor milk production might be due to your stress." When I had David, he never cried this much. Each small comment gradually eroded my confidence. Combined with postpartum fatigue, I began to lose myself. Sleepless nights continued, and the distinction between day and night became blurred. Meanwhile, Patricia's comments grew more caustic. Feeding times were especially difficult. Whenever Rachel cried, Patricia would inevitably appear. When it was my time, things went much better, she'd say while trying to correct how I held the baby. When I refused her help, she'd look at me accusingly, saying, "Can't you even take advice from someone experienced?" David seemed both aware and unaware of the situation. Coming home late from work, he only expressed gratitude for his mother's dedicated care. Mom's help is such a blessing, he'd say with a smile, and I couldn't bring myself to reveal my true feelings. Things became clearly strange around Rachel's 1-month mark. Patricia began caring for the baby as if I didn't exist. It's feeding time. When I'd try to nurse, she'd say, "You rest. I'll handle this," forcefully taking Rachel away. She even started taking charge of night feedings. The change was reflected in the house's atmosphere. The living room suddenly filled with photos from David's babyhood. "See how she looks just like David," Patricia would say while holding Rachel, her eyes showing an unusual gleam. When I brought up returning to work, Patricia's expression transformed. "Surely you're not thinking of leaving such a tiny baby to go to work? Shouldn't a mother spend more time with her baby?" Her voice carried an unmistakable threat. At night, when I tried to discuss this with David, he'd dismiss it with, "Mom's just worried about us." Worse, he'd say, "Maybe you're being a bit oversensitive." In the family photos on the wall, David's smile seemed to grow more distant each day. One night, I was unusually sound asleep. I had resignedly accepted when Patricia said, "You must be tired. I'll take care of everything tonight." When I woke up, the morning sun streaming through the window seemed to herald another peaceful day. However, that light had not yet revealed the horrifying truth that would forever change our lives. At 5 a.m., Rachel's cry woke me. Florida's March still holds darkness before dawn. As I instinctively rose to prepare for feeding, I noticed something was wrong. The white crib was empty. At first, I thought it was an illusion. Maybe remnants of sleep were clouding my vision. But no. Rachel wasn't there. Her soft pink blanket and favorite stuffed animal were gone too. "Rachel." Only morning silence answered my trembling voice. Panic rose within me. My heart began pounding violently. I felt my limbs turning ice cold. "David! Wake up!" I shook my husband's shoulder hard. "The baby's gone." David slowly opened his eyes. I'll never forget how sluggish his response was. What's wrong?" "Rachel's gone. The crib is empty." He sat up slowly, as if hearing about something routine. "Didn't Mom take her?" His voice held in strange calmness. "At this hour? Taking the baby?" My voice echoed through the room. But David's expression remained unchanged. "Mom mentioned she often goes for early morning walks." Just then, we heard the door opening downstairs. I rushed down the stairs. Patricia stood at the entrance. Alone. "Where's Rachel?" Patricia maintained a calm expression at my question. "I took her for a walk." "You should just rest." "A walk? At this hour? It's cold outside." "Taking a baby out." Patricia's expression froze for a moment. "Am I wrong? I'm just trying to take care of my grandchild." David's voice came from behind. "Mom, where's Rachel?" "At the park." Patricia's voice trembled. "She's resting on a bench." In that moment, everything seemed to stop. There was an obvious contradiction in Patricia's words. She had said she took Rachel for a walk in past tense. Yet Rachel is resting. Bring her back right now, I said in a voice surprisingly calm even to myself. Don't talk to me in that commanding tone. Patricia shouted. You're not even grateful. Just then, the doorbell rang. We stood frozen, listening to that sound that shouldn't occur at 5:30 a.m. When David opened the door, 2 police officers stood there. One was a male officer in his 50s, the other a female officer in her early 30s. Both wore grave expressions. Good morning. I'm Detective Johnson and this is Detective Parker from Tampa Police. The male officer took out his smartphone. I apologize, but do you recognize this baby? The screen showed Rachel sleeping in a garbage bin at Oak Grove Park. Rachel! My scream shattered the silence. David peered at the screen. Mom, this is... When he turned around, Patricia had already collapsed on the floor. Her face was pale, her eyes unfocused. I'll call an ambulance, the female officer reached for her radio. Patricia Brown, the male officer said calmly. You're under arrest. At that moment, unbelievable words escaped Patricia's lips. David. I'm sorry, but this is all her fault. She was pointing at me. She took my son away from me. The morning sun was gradually brightening the room. Outside, early morning joggers passed by as usual. The public sign still emitted its usual glow. But what was happening inside this house showed us that things would never return to usual. Sirens approached. Patricia continued staring outside with vacant eyes. David leaned against the wall, unable to move. I couldn't stop trembling as I prayed for my child's safety. Just then, the porch light of the neighboring house turned on. Neighbors were beginning to notice the commotion. Soon this incident would become morning talk of this peaceful neighborhood. It would spread on social media, be reported in local news, and be etched in people's memories. But at that moment, none of that mattered to me. I could only desperately pray for Rachel's safety. The police officers had already begun their procedures. Radio communications flew back and forth as Patricia Brown's arrest process proceeded. The scene was like a nightmare. But this wasn't a nightmare. This was our family's new reality. And everyone was beginning to understand that this morning's events would forever change our lives. It would take much longer for peaceful mornings to return to Oak Grove Park. The interrogation room at Tampa Police Station was brighter than I'd imagined. Fluorescent lights illuminated Patricia's exhausted face. She looked like a different person, aged beyond recognition. Would you tell us what happened? Detective Johnson prompted gently. After a long silence, Patricia slowly began speaking. Her voice had completely lost its former dignity. David was a wonderful child. She spoke while staring at the photo on the desk, David's graduation picture. He was supposed to become a professor at Yale University. He had a promising future as a researcher. But tears welled up in Patricia's eyes. That woman ruined everything. The truth held darker depths than imagined. Patricia had lost her husband over 20 years ago. Her only son David had become her entire life. David's success was what kept her going. When he got an offer from the University of Chicago, I was so happy. But he turned it down for Mary. For her career. Patricia's voice trembled. My son became just a marketing director. Because of Mary. In the observation room next door, I listened to her confession. David stood beside me. His face had turned pale. Then the baby was born. My precious granddaughter, but she was going to be taken away by Mary too. Patricia's voice suddenly turned sharp. She said she was going back to the research lab. Said she'd put the baby in daycare. Leaving my granddaughter with strangers. So you made a plan. Detective Johnson carefully chose his words. Yes. Patricia's eyes took on an eerie gleam. I wanted to show Mary how unfit she was as a mother. To prove she was the kind of mother who would put her baby in danger. You took Rachel out at 5 a.m. Yes. Mary was sound asleep. I had put sleeping pills in her tea. At this confession, David nearly collapsed in the observation room. While supporting my husband's shoulder, I desperately tried to contain my own emotions. In the park's garbage bin. Patricia's voice broke off. But I wasn't really going to abandon her. I was going to go back before Mary noticed, but a jogger found her and called the police, Detective Parker quietly added. We identified her immediately from her hospital bracelet. Patricia broke down crying. I just wanted to protect David's life. I just wanted my son back. In the observation room, David finally spoke. How could she? His voice mixed with sadness and anger. Mother, how could you? I held my husband's hand. It was ice cold. Mary, David looked at me. I'm so sorry. I should have noticed earlier. That something was wrong with Mom. It's not your fault. I spoke as firmly as I could, but tears wouldn't stop. In the interrogation room, Patricia's confession continued. Everything had been planned. Offering postpartum care, trying to break me down mentally. Taking overnight feedings was all meant to harass me. Ma'am, Detective Johnson entered the observation room. We have an update on Rachel's condition. We held our breath, waiting for his words. She has mild hypothermia but is otherwise unharmed. The garbage bin had been lined with blankets and cushions. My knees weakened at these words. David supported me. She's been taken to Tampa General Hospital's pediatric ward for detailed examination. Visiting hours. I want to go now. The detective nodded kindly at my words. On the way to the hospital, the city views through the car window seemed like a different world. The same sun rising, the same people passing by. But nothing would ever be the same again. In the pediatric ward at Tampa General Hospital, we finally saw Rachel after the incident. Her tiny body was connected to various medical devices, monitors beeping steadily. "She's a strong baby," the attending physician told us. "We'll keep her under observation for 24 hours, but there's no concern about lasting effects." Holding Rachel's tiny hand, I reflected on everything that had happened. Patricia's strange behavior at the wedding, her complex expression at the pregnancy announcement, her postpartum harassment. Everything had led to this moment. David stood frozen in front of our daughter's incubator. "What do we do now?" His voice was filled with anxiety. "First, let's move," I said with determination. "Let's start a new life in a new place." A few days later, Patricia was diagnosed with severe schizophrenia. Symptoms that had been gradually progressing since her husband's death had worsened with the grandchild's birth. She was committed to a psychiatric hospital. A year later, we're living in a new house overlooking Tampa Bay. David has returned to work while receiving psychological counseling. I've also begun balancing childcare with research. Rachel is growing healthy and strong. On Mother's Day, David gave me a card. "To the best mother." It had Rachel's handprint on it. The warmth of that small ink-stained hand was proof of our new life. Sometimes I think about Patricia. She's now receiving treatment at the hospital. David visits her once a month. Rachel and I don't accompany him. This is both for her treatment and to protect ourselves. 1 year since that morning. Oak Grove Park has regained its peaceful daily routine. But we'll never forget. That love can sometimes become distorted, turn into obsession, and lead to madness. And how steep the price for that can be. This experience taught us many things. The importance of family bonds, the significance of trust, and above all, that love sometimes requires courage. The Tampa sunset casts a gentle light. Rachel plays in the garden while David watches over her. I cherish this ordinary happiness more than ever before. Perhaps accepting and overcoming our scars marks the beginning of our new life.